For years, we worried about a war with the Soviet Union.
But since the fall of communism, some of the republics in what was the Soviet Union have turned into young democracies. Our John Iender just visited the city of Lviv in the Ukraine on a National Guard peace mission. For tonight's special assignment, you'll meet our former face-to-face.
If you lived during the Cold War, this is what you feared. For decades, Americans worried about the might of the Soviet Union, about an attack like this. The Soviets trained huge armies and kept them ready to fight. So did we. For decades, we played a dangerous game of chicken until the game suddenly changed. There is no greater symbol of America's victory over communism than the crumbling of the Berlin Wall. From that debris, former Soviet republics like the Ukraine have struggled to rebuild, to light the fire of freedom.
The units from the United States of America.
This month, Californians joined 16 nations in Operation Peace Shield. Our National Guard soldiers came to the Ukraine to practice fighting side by side with their former enemy. Tresh from North Highlands found a lot more than he expected.
These people were very friendly, and I was totally shocked and surprised.
For a week, 300 soldiers played war games and got to know the human beings behind the uniforms. We also got a close look at how the Ukraine is struggling to survive after communism.
Behind me is one of the remnants of the Cold War, a Russian Hind attack helicopter. And yet here it sits, as it has for months, because there's no fuel to fly it.
Inflation is now the Ukraine's new enemy.
The economy is not very strong, but we try to survive anyway.
Will it get stronger?
I think so. I hope so.
Our National Guard soldiers brought the new weapon of war, the computer. It was one small step for the Ukrainians to learn how the Western world fights not only with bullets, but with keystrokes.
These guys have never seen computers in the field before. They don't believe it can work. These people are amazed at how quickly reports can go back and forth. And so, yeah.
Right to the guy in the foxhole?
Absolutely. Out to the field.
But the trade goes both ways.
Their equipment is different than ours, but we're learning how to use their equipment. It has a lot of capabilities, just like ours does. And that's the good experience of it, is working with all these other nations and learning how they operate and learning how to work together.
It is hard to forget sometimes that these guys were once our mortal enemy. You ever think you'd come here and work side by side with your...
Not in this lifetime. I'm an old Cold War soldier, 29 years, and it's always been adversarial up till now.
The Soviets may be gone from the Ukraine, but their memory lives on, and often not in a happy way. This is one of the oldest cemeteries in the area.
It is not recorded how many millions of soldiers died under the weight of communism. There are thousands buried here. Every day they are visited by those who lived under the Red Star and who cannot forget that suffering. Today's Ukrainian army is young and bright. Women now serve and even wear that symbol of the West, the miniskirt. California National Guard soldiers are now taking on global duties. We've seen them keeping the peace in Bosnia, helping build humanitarian projects in Panama, and now in the Ukraine, they're sharing their skills with a generation of soldiers for whom the Cold War may be only a chapter in the history books.
The notion that we would be standing here in these surroundings, having coalition discussions on all kinds of things about soldiering, is just simply mind-boggling.
Different political factions in the world are sometimes enemies, but it's rare that when you really discuss personal relationships, interpersonal relationships with people, people are people. Their main concern here is their family and their future, and it's very similar, obviously, to what our hopes and dreams are.
But every year in California, some of those dreams get crushed. Floods wash us away, fires burn us out, earthquakes shake us to the bone. And it's those same National Guard soldiers who come to our rescue. Here in the Ukraine at this Peace Shield exercise, we also traded skills on how to deal with the battles that nature throws our way. Remember, only 100 or so miles away from here is the site of Ukraine's biggest disaster, the explosion of Chernobyl's nuclear reactor. This exercise was televised live in Europe. Former Soviet soldiers were invited to watch, to bring their families. East meets West.
I am very impressed by American people, by their hospitality, and they're so kind.
The way the world is today, these are the types of operations we're going to be doing more and more of. Maintain peace and stability around the world and working with all kinds of different nations.
Changes the way I look at the world. I mean, I really think that we're rewriting history here.
On special assignment with the California National Guard in the Ukraine, John Iender, KOVR 13 News.
By the way, some Northern California farmers and ranchers went along on this National Guard peace mission. For tomorrow's special assignment at 5 and at 10, we'll visit a Ukrainian farm and show you how some of its products may someday end up in your refrigerator.